Welcome to EPG Pakşala Philosophy. I am Satchidanand Mishra, Professor in the Department of Philosophy and Religion, Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. And the module I am going to discuss here, Navya-nyaya definition of Pakşata, paper Logic 2. So in this module, let us begin with the introduction. What is needed? Why do we need to know Pakşata? What is the necessity of knowing Pakşata in order to have an inferential process? So actually what happens, there are certain cases, certain cognitive events are there which are planned, and certain cognitive events are there which are not planned. So in both these cases, perceptual, scientific, verbal and inferential domain, there are these two kinds of cognitive events. When we infer the presence of clouds in the sky, when we are sitting in the room and listen to the thunder, and we infer that there are clouds in the sky, and this episode, this cognitive episode is not planned and it was not expected at all. But there is a case when we are searching for fire and we are in search of fire and think where there I can find out fire, and see smoke coming out of mountain and go and infer that there is a fire in the mountain because there is a smoke. So these two are cases, and one case more is possible, that suppose, because according to Naiyayikas, one single thing can be known through inference, through verbal testimony and through perception also. So if something is known through verbal testimony, we can infer that. Through inference we can know. So here this is also a case of planned event. So Gangesh, while discussing Pakşata in this section, tries to accommodate all these views, and therefore he is forming the definition of Pakşata, taking into consideration all these episodes, planned episodes of cognitive events and unplanned ones also. So in this inferential domain, he uses a technique known as qualified negation, and this is to be understood as Vishishta Bhav, the absence of a qualified. So the absence of qualified, if we take, then we can understand the nature of Pakşata, and according to that Gangesha has defined Pakşata. So actually there are two necessities in order to have inference. So while inferring, we need one thing that is known as Vyapti Jnana. Second thing we know, that is Pakşadharmata Jnana. So Vyapti, we have discussed what is the nature of Vyapti in earlier modules. We have discussed it very clearly, that what is the nature of Vyapti. So what is the nature of Pakşadharmata Jnana? This is what is the nature of Pakşadharmata. This is desired now. So Pakşadharmata is defined saying that presence of hetu in paksha is called Pakşadharmata. But presence of hetu in paksha, locatedness of hetu in paksha, if we say that this is the nature of Pakşadharmata, then another question pops up, that is, what is the nature of paksha? So the nature of paksha is explained here in this discussion, and in this module you will be acquainted with this idea, that what are the tools and what is the nature of paksha where we are inferring. So what are the conceptual tools necessary for understanding the notion of Pakşata? Because this is a very peculiar concept and very technical one in Navya-nyaya. So the understanding of some of concepts would be very necessary. The first thing, that what is the nature of cognition in Navya-nyaya, this must be understood. And the term Jnana, we have the term Jnana in Sanskrit to denote cognition, and it is used in Navya-nyaya only in the episodic sense. This must be remembered, and it is never used in a dispositional sense. It is used, it covers many things like sensing, perception, memory, introspection, assumption, doubt, belief, and hypothetical cognition, that is what is known as tarka. So all these are included in this jnana. So, and another point to understand this concept is that it is non-eternal and momentary. It is non-eternal, and not only non-eternal, but it is also momentary in individual selves. There is one kind of eternal cognition which is present in God that we are not going to deal with here, because we are only interested here. This is only related to these cognitive events which are produced in individual selves, individual life. So non-eternal cognition is actually have one considered to have generally the duration of 3 moments, and this duration of 3 moments is should be understood in this way, that a cognition first generates, first produced, thereafter second moment it exists, and third moment it gets destructed. So these are 3 moments generally a cognition can have. So this is the way of looking at cognition. Another point is here, that threefold cognition of hetu, cognition of pakşadharmata, recollection of relation of pervasion, and the paramars. So there are 3 cognitions necessary to inferential cognition take place. If these 3 things are there, and it would be improper to say that these 3 are present together, because if paramars is produced, then one can have inferential cognition. There is no need of these 2 cognitions earlier, which were discussed earlier, cognition of pakşadharmata and recollection of the relation of pervasion. But one point must be understood here, that if paramars is there and pakşata is there, so the inferential cognition would be produced, would take place. So these are 2 things necessary for this inferential cognition take place. Another point is very necessary, because we are going to discuss here Vishishta Bhava. So it would be very necessary to know the concept of Visheshana. So there are 2 kinds of qualifiers. In Sanskrit we have 2 terms, and actually it is a difficulty to explain this concept in English, because I think there is no such kind of word which is available in Sanskrit. So there is no word in English. So there are 2 words, one is Visheshana and another is Upalakshana. So Visheshana is essential and Upalakshana is non-essential. So the term is explained by philosophers. Visheshana is something which is Vidya-manatve sati itara vyavartakatva. This is to say, which is distinguishing something being present there, that will be Visheshana, and which is distinguishing something without being present, that will be Upalakshana. So taking examples, we can understand these ideas. Suppose we have to say that white cow. So white cow, only in that case you will utter when actually the cow is white. So white color distinguishes that cow from all other cows, and it is being present, being existent in that cow, it is distinguishing that cow from others. So this white color would be qualifier, and Visheshan, it will be Visheshan. And take the example of Upalakshan, and this is a very famous example. Suppose one is moving in a village and asks for the house of Devadatta, and the person replies that, see, where there is a crow sitting, that house is of Devadatta. And when he is moving, the crow has flown away from that house. In that case, the crow is not present there, but being absent also, the crow is making that house distinct from others. So it is making that house distinguished from others. Therefore, this crow would become Upalakshan here. So these are two kinds of qualifiers, Visheshan and Upalakshan. And if we understand the nature of Visheshan, because here we are going to deal with Vishishta Bhava. So Visheshan, Visheshya, and absence of that qualified. So we are going to take this way to define Pakşata. But first, this would be proper to understand what Pakşata is not. What Pakşata is not, this will be the place to understand. Because there are many examples, many positions adopted by different various philosophers. Some would say that the doubt of Sadhya is Pakşata. So this is one position. This is to say, with the property, Pakşata is many times equated with the property of doubtful probandum. This is to say, if probandum is not determined, if it is not decided, it is not proved there, and if it is doubtful, then you can say that is Paksha. Where probandum is not proved, that and doubtful, that is Paksha. It is one point, one way of looking at it. So, but here Ganges says that doubt cannot function as an essential qualifier, Visheshan, because after the perception of the province and the remembrance of pervision, doubt will vanish just before the occurrence of immediate sufficient cause of the inferential cognition. The point Ganges is trying to raise is that in inferential process, paramars has to be there in order to produce inferential cognition. So another thing is that the doubt should be there, because you are saying that doubt is Pakşata. So doubt can be Pakşata in two ways. One way is either it is a qualifier, or it is Visheshan, or it is Upalakshan. It is essential or it is non-essential. So it is not essential at all, because there is a case when doubt arises and you remember Vyapti Parvision, universal concomitance, and thereafter there is a production of paramars. So the rule, if you remember, I explained just now that according to Nyayikas, a cognition could be present only one moment it is produced, it is generated, and another moment it stays, and third moment it is destroyed. So suppose there is a doubt and thereafter you perceive the smoke, thereafter you remember pervision. So there are three moments, and when paramars is produced, till then this doubt would vanish, it will not be there, therefore it cannot be Visheshan. Because in order to become Visheshan, it is the necessity that it must be present there when there is a paramars. But this is not the case, it is not present in that situation, therefore it cannot be Visheshan at all. Secondly, if you say whether this doubt can be Upalakshan, No, it cannot be upalakshan either. The point is that because in that case it would not function as a distinguishing mark between proved cases and unproved cases. The point is that this upalakshan, being upalakshan, it cannot function as a distinguishing mark between proved cases and unproved cases, as Crow can function the distinguishing mark in case of one is searching for Devadatta's home. So this is not the case here. So this doubt cannot be upalakshan. Another point is that because there are certain some other philosophers who proposed some other points, so Pakşata cannot also be equated with the negation of the conjunction of the certainty of the existence of sadhya and the certainty of the non-existence of sadhya. For negation of conjunction is justified even if one of them is present. Actually, this position is taken as sadhak badhak pramana bhava. Sadhak badhak pramana bhava is formulated in this form, and this is said that there shouldn't be sadhaka pramana and there shouldn't be badhak pramana. This is to say, there should not be existence of sadhya, and there should not be certainty of the existence of sadhya, and there should not be certainty of the non-existence of sadhya, and both are taken together. So here it is said that for negation of conjunction is justified even if one of them is present. So the point is here Gangesh is taking very clever attitude. Suppose there is a pot on the table and one asks you whether there are two things, pot and cloth. You can very well say, no, there are not two things. Only pot is there, cloth is not there. In that case also we say that pot and cloth are not there. So in the same way, if you are saying that there should not be certainty of existence of sadhya and certainty of the absence of both, if you are taking here, so in that case if one is present, in that case also this absence will be there, but both these, if one is present, the inferential cognition doesn't take place. Therefore this would not be the case where inferential cognition takes place. So this cannot be the nature of Pakşata. This Pakşata cannot be equated with it. There is another point, it cannot also be defined in terms of the conjunction of the separate negation of both. So this is to say, both should be there, both absences should be there. Not here, it is not said that absence of both. Here first it was said that absence of both should be there and it cannot be equated, and if I say that both absences should be there, so this is a different thing. So it cannot, here it is negated that this is not also the case, that this cannot be Pakşata, because in that case, in this second conjunct, the absence of the certainty of the non-existence of the sadhya would be redundant. So actually here Gangesh is saying that why you are expecting that there should be certainty of the non-existence of sadhya. There should be the absence of the certainty of the non-existence of sadhya. It should be given up. It is not needed at all in that case. Only one part would be sufficient enough to say. So why shouldn't we take only that part? This is to say, if I say that siddha bhava pakşata. So here it is said that it is also not the case. We cannot accept this is pakşata. Pakşata is not just the absence of the certainty of the probability of the sadhya, certainty of the existence of sadhya. This is to say clearly. So if it is not the case that sadhya is not proved, then you can infer at the place. This is the point, that if at a particular place A or B or anything else, sadhya is not proved, then you can prove it. That A, B, C, etc. would be paksh in that situation. But Gangesh is saying that it is not also true. It is not. It cannot be accepted as pakshata. The point is that in that case, pakshata is also not the haver of sadhya dharma. That the point is that this would not be covered in that case if there is a desire to infer. That case would not be covered. Suppose Nayayikas say that if there is certainty of sadhya, suppose you are told that there is a fire in the mountain, but you are told that there is a fire in the mountain, you are sure that there is fire in the mountain, but if you see smoke coming out of the mountain, you can infer, you are willing, okay, I would like to prove it that there is a fire in the mountain, so you can infer taking the smoke as probans, and you can prove the probandum fire in the mountain. So this will be the case, but here in this case there will not be pakshata at all. There would not be pakshata at all in mountain, because there is not absence of the certainty of existence of sadhya, because it is proved already through verbal testimony that there is a fire in the mountain. Another point, so pakshata is also not the haver of sadhya dharma that one desires to have by inferential cognition. And this is the point that, okay, you are giving importance to the desire, so why don't you take that if there is any desire, if you want to prove something in somewhere, then something somewhere, then that somewhere would be paksha. So suppose you are willing to prove A in a Y, then Y will be paksha. So Gangesh says that this is not the case. You cannot define in that way, because there are certain cases where there is no desire to prove, but there inferential cognition takes place. You are sitting in a room, ghana garjatena meghanumanat. You are sitting in the room in your house. You are not seeing what is there outside. You are not willing to, you don't have any kind of desire to prove that there are clouds in the sky. But in that case also, if you listen the thunder, then this inference takes place that there are clouds in the sky. So this would not be covered by this definition of pakshata. Therefore, all these definitions which were proposed by other philosophers are not to be accepted, and Gangesh says that we cannot accept any one of these definitions. Therefore, he makes an attempt to form another definition, and what he does formatting, adding two alternatives by Vishishta Bhava. So that is the technique of Pakşadharmata. So what this we can understand at this moment, that what is the final definition of Pakşata. So it is said that by Gangesh Upadhyay that Sisadhaisha Viraha Vishishta Sadhaka Pramana Bhavaha Pakşata. So the point is that pakshata is the absence of probability qualified by the absence of the desire to have inferential cognition. In other terms, it would be proper to say that pakshata is the absence of certainty of the existence of probandum qualified, and where that certainty, that siddhi, that cognition is qualified by the absence of desire to have inferential cognition. So this is to say, there probability, that is siddhi. Probability means siddhi. The meaning of siddhi is that you determinate cognition, where a kind of cognition in which it is proved that there is siddhi. there is a fire, there is a there is a probandum. So when probandum is proved in this cognition, that cognition should be not there, but the absence of that cognition is required. But that the absence of that cognition would not be sufficient enough to explain the nature of pakşata, but that cognition must be qualified by the absence of desire to have inferential cognition. So pakşata is found in the following cases: where there is a desire to have inferential cognition, thou you are certain that there is a siddhi, and also if there is not siddhi, and where there is absence of both, in those cases also pakşata is available. This pakşata will be available. Only one case is there when pakşata will not be available: if there is probability, this is to say you have a cognition of existence of probandum and you don't have desire. So in that case there will not be pakşata. In that case inferential cognition would not take place. So here let us understand Vishishta bhava, because without understanding Vishishta bhava we cannot understand the concept of pakşata. So to make the notion of Vishishta bhava explicit, clear, let us take the example: absence of blue pot. So when we can say that there is no blue pot at all. So here there are two things, and one is blue and another is pot. So suppose there is a pot but not blue, then there will be absence of blue pot. If there is blue and not pot, then also there will be the case that you can say that there is absence of blue pot. Suppose there is not blue, there is no pot, in that case also there will be absence of blue pot. And there will be one position when there is blue and also pot, then only you can say that you cannot say that there is no blue pot. So this is Vishishta bhava. Vishishta bhava is coming here. These three cases are there where Vishishta bhava is. One is when blue is not there, and second is when pot is not there, third is when blue is not there and pot is not there. So in that case you can say that there is a Vishishta bhava. It is a very similar concept, parallel to the stroke function technique of symbolic logic in modern Western philosophy and Western logic. So to understand this technique clearly, we can take this symbolic representation of pakşata. We can describe the definition of pakşata symbolically as follows in that way. Suppose Tx is equal to x, that is thesis. Tx means paksha, that is thesis, paksha. Dx means desired to be proved. So d means desired to be proved. So dx is equal to x is desired to be proved, and px is equal to x is proved. Then to say that x is a thesis is definitionally equivalent to saying that it is not the case that x is not desired to be proved and that x is proved. So this is the point that x is not, this is not the case that x is not desired to be proved and that x is proved. So here in that way it is a possibility that x is not desired to be proved. In that case also inferential cognition could take place, and if there is a desire, in that case also inferential process would take place, given the fact that if there is certainty, there is a cognition, there is a certainty of probandum, then you have a desire, and if there is no certainty of probandum, you don't have desire. Without desire the inferential process could take place. So thus this is that is by definition Tx is equivalent to negation of boxed negation dx and px, and by applying De Morgan's law and double negation, we get Tx is equivalent to negation of dx and negation of Tx. So here these two are taken in that way differently, and by applying double negation we can also say that Tx is equivalent to dx and Tx, and here the disjunction is inclusive disjunction. This is to say, that is the point, that by definition x is paksh if and only if either x is desired to be proved or x is not yet proved. In both these cases it will be paksh or both, that is to say x is not proved and is desired to be proved. So if it is not proved and there is a desire to be proved, then inferential process would take place, and if it is proved and there is a desire to be proved, then the inferential process would take place, and if it is desired to be proved and it is proved, then the inferential process would take place. So these are situations, three situations in which inferential process would take place, because these are three situations when there is pakşata. And fourth situation would be that there is no desire to prove, but it is proved. There is no desire to be proved and to be proved, and it is proved. So there is siddhi and no sysadhisha at all. So in Sanskrit it is called desire to be proved is sysadhisha, and siddhi is proved. So if it is proved, that means there is siddhi and there is not desire to be proved, then this inferential process would not take place. And if this is the case, that it is proved and there is desire to be proved, then inferential process would take place. And if it is not proved and there is a desire to be proved, then there is no problem at all, their inferential process would take place. And if there is no desire to be proved and it is not proved, in that case also the inferential process will take place. As in case of inference of clouds in the sky, you are sitting in room and you are not seeing what is happening outside. You are not willing to infer that there is a fire, there are clouds in the sky, but you can infer it because it is not proved, and you don't have desire to prove, but there is a mechanically this process take place. You listen to the thunder and you remember that thunder can be there only if there are clouds, and you remember the provision, you remember vyapti, and thereafter there is a paramarsh and there is a conclusion that there are clouds in the sky. So this is happening here in this case. So some points here to understand that sysadhisha and paramarsh and probability have to exist simultaneously in a single self. But the ontological structure, because to justify this explanation or definition of pakşata, this is the necessity that there is a possibility that sysadhisha and paramarsha and the probability that is siddhi must exist together. But as I have explained, according to Navya-nyaya, there is this possibility is a little bit confusing. Whether it is possible, we can doubt. The point is that we told you that if there is all cognitions are momentary, it means they are produced at one moment, they exist second moment, and they are destroyed at third moment. So these are three things, and all this criteria, this rule is not applicable only to cognition, but it is applicable to desire also. So because desire is also a special quality of the self, a special quality of individuals, so it is applicable to that also. So sysadhisha, suppose sysadhisha is produced and thereafter Paramarsh is produced and thereafter Siddhi is produced. So you cannot say that there is a need of Pakşata, because in this case this desire would vanish next moment, in this moment when Paramarsh is Siddhi is getting produced. And if you change the way, whatever way should be there, these three would not exist at the same time. This is a great difficulty felt by Naiyayikas, and to solve this difficulty they have said that there is another possibility, that the Paramarsh is in the form of Siddhi. This is to say, Paramarsh is such kind of when it not only includes Paramarsh but also includes Siddhi. So in that case only two are there, because at the same time two cognitions are not produced but only one cognition is produced, and that cognition, the object of that cognition are two. One is Siddhi and another is Vyapti Vishishta Pakşadharmata. So if Vyapti Vishishta Pakşadharmata is content of that cognition, and also Siddhi is a determination of presence of Sadhi in Paksha is also the content of that cognition, then it is a Siddhyatmak Paramarsh. This is a Paramarsh in the form of Siddhi. So there will be Siddhi, and if we don't accept this kind of Pakşata, in that case there won't be inferential cognition. Inferential cognition would not take place. Therefore we need to formulate in this way the process of inference. So we can understand, and Naiyayikas have tried to explain this concept, that Siddhi is preventer and Sisadhisha is stimulant for having inferential cognition. That is why where Siddhi is present, it is not possible to have inferential cognition in the absence of Sisadhisha. Okay, a desire to have inference. So this is another example is given many times in Nyaya text, that one example is given that there is a moonstone and sunstone, and this is said that actually if there is a fire and moonstone is present at the place, the fire would not burn. But if you put sunstone and moonstone together with fire, then the fire will burn. And if you take away moonstone, there will be the fire will burn. So here also you can have that there are four possibilities. If both are there, if sunstone is there and moonstone is there, then there will be burning, fire will burn. And if there is only sunstone and fire, then the fire will burn. And if there is no sunstone, neither moonstone, then also fire will burn. And if sunstone is there and fire is there, it will burn. But suppose there is this situation that moonstone is there and fire is there, but there is no sunstone, in that case fire will not burn. So you can say that absence of sunstone is qualifier of, it is actually it is uttejaka. It is a uttejak, therefore because it is stimulant, so it is stimulator. So preventer is moonstone, but only moonstone is not preventer, but moonstone qualified by the absence of sunstone is the preventer. Therefore here the absence of sunstone becomes delimiter or bounder of this pratibandhakata which is present in moonstone. So in this case, this is the very similar case to this Pakşata, and in case of Pakşata, this is also the case. You can understand that here the absence of Sisadhisha, because Sisadhisha is the desire to prove is stimulant, therefore the absence of Sisadhisha is taken as delimiter of Siddhi, delimiter of that obstacle, that is Siddhi. probability. If the absence is there, then there will be pakşata, and if the absence is not there, there won't be pakşata. So this is the definition of pakşata. So to sum up all these issues, we can understand that for two cognitions are required basically to produce inferential cognition. One is vyaptik jnana and second is pakşadharmata jnana, and pakşadharmata jnana is presence of hetu in paksh, that should be cognized, and vyapti should be remembered, and after that paramars takes place, and in addition to the nature of what is the locus where we can infer something, so pakşata is required. We cannot infer anywhere, only certain places we can infer. So what are the certain places where we can infer? That is the point discussed here in this module in Pakşata. And if you are willing to understand something more, do turn to the learn more section, and you may consult the e-text which is available there. Thank you.